Okay. Well, got in a little late. Okay, let's see. Well, hello, everybody. Just getting in here a little bit late tonight. It is Sunday night, and we are hoping Sunday night, January 26th. Just going on a little Sunday night rant. Just want to go out there and see if anybody's out there just wanting to log on in. I do have the messages up. I cannot see TikTok, though I know we are broadcasting on TikTok, but I can see YouTube and Facebook messages. So tonight I'm going to talk about some of the things that are going on and see if I get some information out there. Let's see what we got. Anybody logging on? Let's see. mm. Let's see if I can share this with you guys. Let's see here. Tonight we will do some and see if I get some information out there. Cool. Yeah, we are recording. We are on Facebook. I just saw. Yeah, we are live on Facebook. We're on Facebook and we are on YouTube. And as like I said, it is Sunday night, a little bit after 8. I started a little bit late tonight because I had some technical difficulties logging in. And Magni is out of the country right now. I'll tell you a little about that when you log back in. So when I get a few to log in. Well, anyway, things I wanted to talk about. So Alicia will be with me on Wednesday night, and she should be live then here with me in the studio or in the what I call our office, where we have everything set up for the podcast. I did post out this week the Touch an Eternity video that was done with We Don't Die, Sandra Champlain. Please follow her. And okay, there we go. Hey, Gwen, good to see you, girl. Do have somebody else? So we did put out this week the Touch an Eternity event with with We Don't Die, Sandra Champlain, and you got to see Scott, Dominic, and myself and Sandra talking about our events and talking about some of the experiences that we had, going through different types, like our experiences going to events and how we got started, and I kind of told y'all like how I met Scott and how I journeyed, through my spirituality and my growth and getting to meet Scott and Dominic, and how all this came to be. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight because I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and my complete journey, not just meeting Scott, but like the entire journey into my spirituality and into the development of my mediumship. And I'll even talk a little bit about my intuition and my psychic abilities as well. But I think it's really an interesting story. And again, I won't get into all the miracles that I've seen and the remarkable things that have happened during my journey, but I'll give you a baseline kind of the things that have happened and that I've experienced in my journey. So one of the first thing that I can tell you that I can remember growing up was, and this was documented in a book that was written that was written and I is documented about me, from Kalila Smith. She's an author. Was that when I was young, I have vivid memories of moments or journeys in my younger life of visiting places that were alternate realities or alternate places. And I can recall even to this day, even this many years later, and this had to happen like I guess around age 3 or 4. But I have alternate memories of alternate realities of going places and going through I would say energetic doorways and having visitors and seeing people and visiting things, and that's where it started. Then as my brain developed or as I got older, that kind of went away. And then I started to have a friend, which really is kind of wild for me, is that the friend that I had as my doorkeeper growing up, or what I learned to be what was a doorkeeper, was a little redheaded guy, which I found that a lot of mediums have that little redheaded guy. I know Scott has one, and I know that a couple other physical mediums have one as well. Um, Scott's his name is Daniel, and then there's a couple others mediums that I've met that also have that little redheaded kid that kind of follows them around uh, and works through them, and they're usually all mischievous. But I remember having one to visit me, and I had some other things that happened that were very right-brained events. Growing up, I also remember what really took me into development was we had an aunt who read playing cards, and she did not want to teach me though. She did teach my one of my oldest sister, and she taught one of my aunts how to read playing cards, but they did not pick it up. They learned, but they did not. They did not continue their education with it, and but she would not teach me. So I picked up tarot cards, and so I started reading tarot cards at about age 13. And I picked up my first deck in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and I started reading tarot cards then. And I remember I had read a friend's mother from school one time, and who lived on she lived on the lakefront on Orpheum Avenue in one of the old houses that was put over the lake, and I read for her. I don't want to say any names because I don't, people are very private about those things. But if I would say her family name, people would know her here today. But I started reading. I read for them, and one of the ladies who raised me was also a very metaphysical and didn't know it. She used to always call somebody the little fella, and the little fella actually lived in her home. And me and my little sister got to see the little fella, who wasn't very little. It was a big dark figure who would come out of the closets at night. And we didn't even know, we didn't never seen it together because we were 9 years apart. But we did, like I was, it was after post Katrina when we finally had a conversations, and we kind of talked. I meant went to say it, and she finished my sentence. So, the dark figure that used to come. So that's when we finally realized, like 30, 40 years later, that we both experienced the same, you know, energetic figure, at the same time. Hey, how you doing, Miriam? So, that was something that was unique that happened in my childhood. So that was also part of my journey, and that with reading cards and just being intuitive, and um, just everything that happened to me in my life as I look back had a purpose. Good. That's good to hear. We need to see you soon, Miriam. So everything in my life had a purpose, and it pushed me into this path some kind of way. I was around a lot of death growing up. We had a lot of family members that we lost, some very young, some that were elderly. I became an embalmer and funeral director, which helped me learn about death. And that was right before I lost a whole mess of family members. So that really, really helped me prepare for grief and helped me understand a little bit about different cultures, different things. Um, at that point, I then lost my mother, which took me into really some deep, hard grief, and had a really hard reaction to grief. And that propelled me even further. And I went into a really dark space for a while, but that dark space that I went to definitely helped strip me of a lot of things and help me rebuild. And so my mom's death really helped me rebuild my whole life and my whole outlook on life. And so it just started restructuring me completely. And then the right people started coming around me and just remolding me and rebuilding me. And then um, so that's when I met Denise. Right around my mom's the end of my mom's life is when I met Denise, and Denise and I became really close friends, and we had a very special relationship. I will say it that way. And Denise and I lived together for a little while, and we had a very special relationship. And it was like all that was a very much restructured. She introduced me to Louise Decker, who then took me on taught me all about a different type of spirituality. So I don't want to, talk about too much about that, but I learned a lot about paganism through there and a lot about that kind of stuff and dealing with herbs and nature and those types of things. And then through that and reading cards, I met a guy named, I'm just going to say first names. I'm going to say Marvin. And then Marvin introduced me to Tom Clark, who was the paranormal instructor at UNO, and he was a spiritualist and a medium. And I started sitting in circles for mediumship, and and so so all of this just started developing me and molding me and taking me on my path. And then I would sit in circle for mediumship. And I'll never forget, they used to have an apartment in the Pintabo building in the French Quarter where Jenny Lind, the opera singer, used to be. And we would sit there, and I would get visits from Jenny Lind, and I could see, and my visions there were quite clear. And I had some memorable experiences there. And we had a lot of some very good mediums. Paulette Lucas, who's still around, but she moved north at post Katrina. She would come to many of those circles, and she's got a special place in my heart. And there was a lot of other people who would come sit in those circles, and we would read for each other, and we would have a very good circles with Tom. And of course, eventually Louise moved. My pagan teacher moved to Colorado, and then Tom eventually passed. Post Katrina, hey Denise, post Katrina, Paulette moved to the northern United States. Hey Paul. So everybody, and then post Katrina, I moved to Dallas. When I moved to Dallas, Dallas has a whole bunch of mediums. That's where I met Lana and Joy, who owns Spiritual of Joy, Miracles of Joy, is from New Orleans. She lived right down the street from me, in Bucktown. And so I got to meet Joy. Joy had a store in Dallas, and I met a guy named David there. He was a study in medium, and a whole bunch of other mediums. A lot of people. It was very controversial there because everybody was doing their own thing, and spirituality was taken over. There was tons of mediums in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But David was the one who actually got me to go to Arthur Findlay College, and through David, I went, him and one of his, a female friend of his, and we all traveled across the pond. And again, I was still learning basically about mediumship and learning about mental mediumship. I was mostly reading cards still. And while I was also in Dallas, I had met a numerologist at one of Miracles of Joy's fairs. I met Kay, who was a phenomenal numerologist and wonderful soul, and she taught me numerology. She took me under her wing and she taught me numerology, and she was absolutely fabulous woman. And Magni and her got actually really close, and so I learned numerology through her. And then like I said, I went off to Arthur Findlay, and while I was at Arthur Findlay, saw many, many, many miracles that week. That first week I spent there, and that was I think that was 2010. Was I with Magni, or was that 2008? I think that was 2010. I think I was with. It was 2010. No, I think that was 2008. It must have been 2008 because I think it must have been the year that I met Magni. I'm trying to think. I don't remember if I was with Magni the first year I went, or if it was after that, because Magni and I got married in 2010. Anyway, somewhere in that 2008, 2010 that I went to. Yeah, I think it was around 2010 when I went to Arthur Findlay the first time. It was also the year that I got married. And anyway, while I was there, I got to study under Glenn Edwards, who is also another phenomenal medium and mentor. And unfortunately, Glenn has now passed, but Glenn has written several books. I just recently got some of my signed books back from one of my good friends that I had loaned him to read, and I just actually got some of those books back from Glenn. That they're all autographed by Glenn, and I got to study with Glenn. And so And remember, y'all remember a couple episodes, a couple nights ago, I told y'all about the importance of trance. And I told you about the importance of being able to get down into those trance states, getting into those altered states when you are working and trying to find the best versions of yourselves. And I can tell you that I had only gone to Arthur Finley to study mediumship. And when you go there, like I said, there's like 100. There was 100 plus students there, and they're from all over the world. And I saw miracle after miracle. It was where I did seance for the first time. It was where I did seance for the first time. It was where I done uh, that's I didn't go to table tipping, but I heard about table tipping for the first time. Because when I was supposed to do table tipping, I wanted to go to seance because I was put in group 2 for seance, and I wanted to go to seance. So I went and listened to the seance rather than go to table tipping. I cut table tipping and go listen to Scott in seance. And Scott was young then. Scott, that was back like 2000. I had like Scott was very young guy back then. He's still young, but he was real young back then. And I wouldn't just listen because I wanted to hear it. So I wanted to get close to it. So I just sat like in the hallway, listening to them sing and pray and hearing all the musical instruments playing and the drums beating and things moving in the room and a crash and bells ringing and all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the seance room and people like asking questions and different voices from the spirits coming out. I mean, I was just sitting there and just listening in awe. And so I had that experience, while I was there. I was all excited. And also, while I was there, we were doing this energetic circle where it was an exercise where we all sat in a circle, and Glenn led an exercise where we were to go into some. He did a little exercise. We went into some form of altered state, and then we were to speak. And while while he was doing the exercise, people started speaking, and they were all speaking these things like world peace and things you would hear like Miss America say, and all of a sudden out of my mouth, I don't know where it came from, I just went, Harry, get the damn flowers off the bed. It was crazy. And everybody looked at me like, oh, I can't believe like you went there, like you said something that shouldn't have been said. Like I was like, I don't know why I said that. And when it was all over, Glenn walked over to me and said, Mr. Patrick, you're going to be a physical medium. And I'm like, wow, like what's a physical? Like I didn't even know what a physical medium was at that point. And then my friend, the guy, my acquaintance, because he's never was, I guess, really a friend. We just knew each other. The guy that I had traveled with ran over going, oh, he got all excited. Like, oh, Glenn Edwards, so you can be a physical medium. That's like Christ coming off the cross. I'm like, what's a physical? I had no idea what physical mediumship was at that point because, like I said, this was all new to me back then. I knew what a medium was, and I knew how to give messages, and I knew the base, but I had no idea. And that's when I first started to learn about physical mediumship and trance. And that's when Glenn said that he wanted to work with me that before I left the college that week. And so he took one day in the sanctuary, which is it looks to me like a church, but they call it the sanctuary. It's a bunch of uh, chairs, like seats or pews lined up. It looks like and it's like in a big thing that kind of goes down from the front like a stage. And everybody sits in there. So all the students were there, and he put some chairs he put a chair in front, and he had me sit in the chair, and he put me down. He talked to me and talked me down into the trance state. And I remember sitting in the chair, and I'm just like in a chair like this, and I closed my eyes and I had my head back, and he's talking me down, and he has me controlling my breathing, and he has me going down. And as I'm going down, I see what looks like this Asian guy. First, I feel like my head is pushing way back in the chair, and then I feel like I see this Asian guy like come through me and sit over me. And as he's sitting over me, I see this long beard start to form. And then as he sits over me, I see this hand come up and do like this and wave at everybody that's in front of me. Now, what happened how I can explain it to you what happened was, as I felt myself pushing back, I actually stepped through myself, and I was back here, and he stepped through me and sat here. So it wasn't like he sat over me or he stepped around and stepped in. I came back, and he came, and he stepped into me and went forward, and he started to form in on me. And so while all that was happening, um, I was down a little bit, and then Glenn brought me back up, and he said, "Don't say a word." He said, "Audience, tell Sid what you saw." And the people started saying, first they saw what looked like sparks, lights hit around my head, and then they saw what looked like wave or energy, flow over me, and then they saw like a beard form on me, and then they saw a hand wave at them. And so I was able to push that Asian guy out of me so they could see him. Hey, Chris. So that was my first experience where I knew that, and this guy that I put out is a guy that sometimes when I'm in a dream state or I can get down deep, he will come out, and he never speaks to me, but he will show me things. We have like a telepathy type of conversation, but he never speaks to me. He will show me things. Okay, so he is one of my guides. He's a very high spiritual guide that I haven't with me, but he never speaks to me. He only shows me things. And so that's the first time that I was actually able to push him out. So so to me that was remarkable, because I saw that, and then they told me what I was experiencing from behind. So that was really, really, really cool for me. And that was because I was in a trance state. I was in a level of consciousness down deep. So my higher self and my higher energies were coming out. Okay? So I just want you guys to know that. Okay? Now also, Scott, I was in Banyan, and Scott had two cabinets set up. And those of you who've been to seance know what a cabinet is. Those who haven't been to seance, a cabinet is like it's like a closed-in square box that the medium has a chair in, and they're usually handcuffed in there. But in this case, I wasn't handcuffed. But Scott would set them up because it houses spiritual energy. So when he's doing trance work, when you're there studying with him for the week, he'll let a student, if there's $1, $2, he'll let a couple students during the week. Each of them will take turns going into the cabinet and go into trance. While he's doing the trance with everybody, during the week, because he'll do it several times, a couple times a day, he'll let students take turns going into the cabinets to go into trance. Well, it was my turn to be in the box, so I was in the cabinet, and he put everybody down. And once again, I went down again. I went back. I stepped through myself. My Asian guy stepped out, and he walked out of the cabinet. And I saw him go out there, and he nodded at every student in the room that was there. And when it was over, he came back. I didn't know if anybody saw that. I just know that's what he did. Well, then Scott made the comment. He said, "Who saw the Asian guy come to the center of the room and nod at everybody?" So that let me know that Scott didn't know that I sent that, but he saw the Asian guy. So once again, I knew that someone could see the guide I pushed out. Okay? So that's when I tell you that trance is important. And like I said, if you need a mentor, I recommend Scott. Glenn was phenomenal, but Glenn has passed on. Scott is phenomenal. I have not sat with anybody else that's taken me to that level yet. If I do, I will let you know if there's somebody else. There may be. I've not taken from them. So until I meet that person, I'm going to continue to recommend Scott, because he's the only one that's been able to take me there. I've studied with other people. They've not yet been able to take me there and bring me there. So I will continue to push Scott, because he's been the only one that can take me down to that level. And so again, it's the different level, the different consciousness. You need to get to that beta theta state. Try to get as close to that delta theta state that you can get to make those things happen. Okay? But you can get down to, you can do, you can really start to change your life. You can make great changes in your life if you can get yourself into that state. And so Touch and Eternity was created around that concept to help people touch eternity through physical mediumship and through trance. But Touch and Eternity is built around that concept. And that's why we bring in Scott, and we bring in people like Dominic and Josephine and myself, because we are here to help you become those best versions of yourself. We are here to assist with that. You can go take mediumship from there's 100,000 teachers of mediumship, okay, out there in the world today. Everybody that's taken a weekend course thinks they can teach mediumship. Bottom line, okay? But I always want people to try to have the best experience. So I try to pull uniqueness together, and I can tell you, this is what I find to be the best. Something else might work better for you, but what I find to be the best is people who can one understand who they are as a person, hence why I teach energetics. 2, continue to practice their mediumship or their psychic ability or their healing, okay? That's why we bring in people like Dominic, and we bring in people like Mary DiGiovanni, we bring in people like Josephine with the psychic art, because the more of those things you deal with, the more powerful you become. But mainly, we bring in Scott because trance is the key to all of those. Getting into those altered levels of consciousness and working with the power is the key to all of them. And so it's crucial, if this is something you want to do, whether it's just for yourself personally to enrich your own life, or whether it is for something that you want to look at to help others, or do you want to do it professionally, this is something that you need to do for you. And that's why I try to bring the whole scope of the whole practice in. And I always like to bring in something each time to add. Like last conference, we had Sonia Rinaldi, who brought in her work. So we like to introduce new work and new things, the latest technologies and stuff. So, this is why you will see these different many facets with Touch and Eternity. This year it is in Orlando. We just put out on the We Don't Die podcast that about the conference. We all told our own stories. That's why I kind of wanted to tell you my journey. I have been, and it's not just Arthur Findlay, because that's, like I said, that was my first trip to Arthur Findlay. I've been back to Arthur Findlay. I've been to Banyan Retreat several times. I went to a physical mediumship conference at Eastbourne, which is probably the seance that floored me the most. That was a phenomenal seance that I've seen there. Some wild stuff happened at that one. And we've had many great seances here in New Orleans. Scott's energy in New Orleans blend really well. We've seen some phenomenal seances here. I was not in the Orlando conference when Scott was in. Scott went with Sandra Champlain with We Don't Die conference back in 2019 in Orlando, and they had a phenomenal seance then. I was not present for that. I had to work that weekend. But again, Scott has been doing some fabulous work. His mentoring with the students that he's doing has been going really well. So I don't know if any of you guys are taking any of his trance classes online, but he can get you there. He can get you there. He definitely got me there. And I have I have already questioned him a few times about I want to do some one-on-one training with him, but he's been so busy because right now he's been studying and working, and he is working at getting himself into some more spiritual places. I'm going to say it that way because I'm going to let him break all that news to you guys. But he's working on that, right? So he's got a bunch of projects going on. So I can't really get him by himself to work with me, but I am getting him to work with me because he's been one of the, like I said, the only other one other than Glenn that's been able to get me down good enough to where I can push out my higher self can actually be pushed out where people can see it with the naked eye. So I might even see if while we're in Orlando, if I can catch him before he gets too tired, he might work. I'll see if he can take me down and if he can get the guy to come out. And maybe he'll do it where I can push him out for you guys to see. In Orlando, I don't know. So if I can get him before then, but he is so busy, it is hard. But like I said, he didn't even realize he did it. But it was in a class he took us down, and I was able to push the Asian guy out, so everybody could see the Asian guy. So I hope to do that so you guys could actually get to witness. But I want you to know this isn't something just because that's for me. This is what I want to say to you. It's not just that I can do this. You can do this too. These things are not just because it's me. You all have these same gifts. And that's the part I need you guys to understand. That people say, oh, that's because you're a medium or because you're that. No, you are too. You're born with it. You have to find what you can do. And unless you try and take yourself down the path, you're not going to ever know. So if this is something that you want to understand about yourself, then you need to go down the path. If you don't want to know it, then fine. Continue just listening and work on just making yourself have a better life. You don't have to take it down the mediumship path or the psychic path or the healer path. You can just take this just to make yourself have a better life or to enjoy your journey better or learn how to bring happiness more into your life. Because with energetics, that's what it's going to do. You don't, when you go to touching turn, you don't have to go to every course. We don't yell at you if you don't show up in a class. But if you want to go learn art or or psychic art, and let me tell you, Josephine, like people who know me know that Magni can tell you because Magni helped me get through college art because I had to take that for nursing, but because I cannot draw but stick people. But when I did psychic art, Josephine had me drawing people, and I don't draw people; I draw sticks. And Josephine literally had me drawing people. So I know it's possible. I know when you sit there and you go into that space that your hand will move with the spirit. I know that. And I couldn't believe it because like I said, I drew that. And granted, it wasn't as picturesque as other people, but it wasn't a head and a stick and a stick and a stick and a stick and a stick. You could actually see figures and faces and all that. I was like, wow, that was crazy. It freaked me out even. Like I drew that. So never, 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 never short yourself. Always, 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 always know you can do things and allow yourself the patience because that's something I don't have, folks. I missed that line when the Lord was having our patience. I must have thought he said I must have thought he meant like people patience, and I went try to take care of somebody versus go get my patience. But anyway, because I could take care of some patients, like people patients, but when it's other kind of patients, I don't have that for sure. So I did want to, I wanted to tell you like a little bit about my journey so you understand that there's nothing special about any of this, that it is a natural walk of life. It is just, and it's just living, trying to live nicely and trying to be kind to people. It's about being empathetic. It's about not holding on to anger, not holding on to mistrust, or not holding on to hurt or pain. And it's about learning to let things go and moving forward and understanding that every moment you have there's another moment that comes right after it. So you can let go of whatever discomfort you have and choose to live in a better place the next moment. And that's what I do. I had a client the other day, and when I was talking to this client, a lot of depression started coming up. And, like I told this person, you have some control over depression. You know, um, you know, Sometimes depression is chemical, like it's your body's chemistry or chemical, but you have some control. You can choose in your depression not to be depressed, not to dwell in it, and try. Even I'm not gonna say it's gonna get 100% better. Let me give you an example. I can be depressed and I can stay home and I can mope and I can stay inside and I cannot go facing, or I can take my depression and say, you know what, I don't feel good today, but I'm going to go outside and I'm going to get some sun. I am going to go outside and I am going to go say hello to somebody. I am going to go, you know what I'm saying? You could put some positivity into your depression. You can choose to do that. I'm not saying it's going to make you feel 100 times better, but it's going to help pull you away from the isolation. You could help yourself pull away from the isolation. You can help yourself pull away from the feelings of being bad. I'm not going to say that you're not going to still be upset when you go to bed at night. I'm not going to tell you that, because depression is depression, but you have some control in there. And that's what you have to remember, that you do have some control in the way that you feel. You do. You have some control, so take some responsibility with it when you see it coming. Like I can remember the when I went to the Anne Frank house, and I will never forget this. I got so depressed, and I was like, God, why near a holiday? It was like around Thanksgiving. Like it was right around like Christmas or Thanksgiving time. It was that holiday? It was like that November. It was cold, I remember. And I went to the Anne Frank house, and I walked out of there, and I just all of a sudden didn't feel right, and I was like, wow, why did I pick this time of year to go to the Anne Frank house? Really? I'm like, I was in Amsterdam, and I'm like, what kind of idiot am I? Right? I went to the Anne Frank house, and now I'm depressed. So I had to go find things to make me feel better. And I said I don't want to go drink, because if I go drink, that's going to make me more depressed, right? So I passed a little comedy club. I said, well, maybe if I just go listen to some music or go listen to some comedy, maybe that will help. Oh, it didn't help much. I was still kind of, So then I just thought I found someone that I just started a conversation with, and that conversation kind of helped some. It helped some, but by the end of the night, I was still thinking about that damn Anne Frank house for like 3 days. I took 3 days to get out of my system. Like I had to go find things to do to pull me away from it, but it kept returning for like 3 days. It took me like 3 days to get over the Anne Frank house. I don't know what it was, and again, it was just an icky, nasty feeling about that time in Germany, I guess, and with the Anne Frank and the and all and all what Germany did to that area of the world, and I just did. For some reason, just it depressed me. I had to, and I had to deal with that, and that's on me. I mean, I didn't bring anybody else down, but I had to work on that for 3 days. I had to be conscious that I was depressed, and that's what I was telling my client. I said, you need to be conscious of your depression, and when you're feeling that way, you have to do things to try to take your mind off of it, to change it. You may or may not be successful, but the fact that you understand that you're in depression and that you're working on that makes you have a hand up on it. Makes you aware, that you need to do things to help you, with it. And so I left them with that, and actually ran my appointment over. But whenever I see that in cards, I will run over with my appointments, and the other people just have to understand. If I ever see anything like depression, suicide, or if I see anything negative in a reading or health thing, I'm not I'm not leaving that client till we work things out. That's just who I am. I mean, until we work it out, I'm not ending the session. So sometimes my sessions will run over, and it just does, because until we work it out, or until we have a plan, or until we talk about those things, I'm not going to end a session. And so I did not want to end this session until we talked about it, and I made sure that I left this person with a you know with a plan. Oh, thank you, Doe. Thank you. And again, we can choose to do things to help us with our depression. It doesn't mean it goes away. Like I said, I was in my depression for 3 days after the Anne Frank house, and it took that. And so and it's just, and again, we can choose, but again, it may not go away, because sometimes it's a chemical reaction within our body. Sometimes it's just an incident, like maybe it was an incident with just being in the Anne Frank house and feeling that energy and that confinement. I mean, like when you walk through, everything is little, and you can see the confined space that they had to live in, and you see the story, and then she dies at the end of it. It was horrible, and it was a holiday time, and everybody's happy, and I'm feeling like shit, so it was like everybody else was having a great time, so I had to I had to pull myself out of it, So again, know that you have a choice, and you need to try to work on that. There's something else I wanted to share with you, and I had it written down, but I'll try to remember it. So I think we talked about it the other night. I want to mention it again. Also, too, you know, never let someone bully you, or be rude with you. If somebody attacks you verbally, always, be calm. Don't get violent back. Always ask them, like if somebody says something to you that's real, ask them to always repeat it. When you do that, what you're doing is you're removing the dopamine hit from them. I said this the other night when Alicia was on. You remove the dopamine hit from them, because if you say you call me a name, you call me gay, or you call me fat, or you call me whatever, I'm going to say, repeat that again. I want you to say it a little bit louder so I can hear it this time, and make them repeat it. So what that does, it makes them stop, and then it kind of makes them say it again, and they may say it again. Then if they do say it again, you say to them, well, what makes you want to say that to someone, or something to that effect. You show a mirror to them, and then that calls them out, and so it takes the high from them, the high from the bully. And then after they do that, you just remain silent. You don't say anything. You don't give them any power, and that's how you handle people who throw negative things at you. So that's a little good defense mechanism there. That's also part of energetics that my group's going to learn about this coming June. So one of the very small pieces, we're gonna have self-defense classes in Orlando. So call it verbal karate. But anyway, so really, the podcast we did with We Don't Die, I aired it on Facebook. I am going to put it on. It is on YouTube. It's under the We Don't Die on YouTube, but I am going to put it on my YouTube as well. It is also on my webpage. So it's on sid-patrick.com. If y'all want to watch it, it's just me, Scott, Dominic, and Sandra talking about what we've experienced at events, and why we go to events more so than it talks a lot about touching eternity as well at the end of it. And then also talks about, because like in America we do touching eternity, and they do have a Together with Spirit, I think, up north, but touch eternity is mostly down south. And in England they do it Together with Spirit as well, and that's Scott and Dominic and some people that are on the other side of the globe, like in Barlow and in Scotland. Now I am going to try to go to Scotland. I think Scotland's almost sold out, but I am going to try to go to Scotland maybe and visit with them. So that's some stuff about touching eternity. Now also, some of you might know that Magni is over in Norway right now. He is setting up a bank account for us there. Well, we have a bank account there, but he is moving it from one location to another. We may be moving to Norway. We are looking into that. There's no secret. Our house is up for sale. So we may move. We may rent here for a while and then move. So that is something, but I will be back and forth. Because he works for the airline, I would be flying back and forth. So I'm not going away completely. I will still be here, but I'm gonna probably be on both sides of the globe. So know that. So we will still have our little meetings and still do things, but that's not anytime soon. But we're just preparing for it because it probably will be sometime next year or maybe towards the end of the year. But we are looking at that. So that's just one of our options. So we're setting everything up to make that move. So I'm very transparent about that. So know that. Um, we have to be prepared because the country and the world is crazy right now. So we want to be prepared for anything that happens. And that's what I tell people when part of energetics is about being prepared. It's about not living in fear. It's because fear is where people want you to live because then you can be controlled. Learn about being prepared. When the minute you start feeling fear, ask if you've been listening to me on here or in my class, if you start to feel fear, start asking what and how questions and become prepared. Because once you're prepared, then there's no reason to have fear. You may have to go through some life changes, but people want you to feel fear so they can control you. That's why all your media and all your churches and all your governments speak fear to you or try to put you into fear, and they try to pit you against other things to create fear so you can be controlled. Understand that. That is an old trick from many, many, many years, even before the Crusades. So that's how long it's been around. It's scientific fact. So just understand that. And once you understand that and you learned how to combat it, then you can be free of it. So it doesn't matter. As long as you have a plan, it doesn't matter. Magni and I had a plan. And so it doesn't matter. And our plan is in the process of being initiated so that we're protected. And so that's all we're doing. And I suggest all y'all do the same. Just make sure you have a plan. Look what's going on around you and have a plan so that you don't have to fear anything. Then you're good. Doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. Just learn to love people. Learn to love people no matter how they believe. Learn to love people for who they are. And it's not, you can't blame everybody for everything because there are some people who are highly intelligent who are playing games with people all the time. So understand that. And sometimes people just don't see it, and that's okay. Don't be mad at them for just you have a plan for you and your family. I tell to people all the time, just have a plan for you and your family. And then you don't have to fear anything. And don't be mad about it. It's going to happen. It is what it is. And I know everybody's like, if you say that, well, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Just have a plan. Have a plan. Protect yourself. Protect your money. Put it more than one bank. That's what we're doing. So if one fails, it's got some somewhere else. All right. So starting, I think Wednesday, what I would like to do with Alicia, and I think she's going to be okay with it, is I'm going to start introducing tarot. And I'm going to start going over how to read tarot cards. So if you're listening tonight, bring your tarot cards Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Because we're going to start talking about tarot cards. And I read different than anybody else. I am going to teach about how to read. It's free. So join. This will save you money than taking a class. So this will be a chance for you if you want to dabble a little bit. I'm going to teach you the basics of reading tarot. Are y'all okay with that? I hope so. So I figured that would be a really cool class. If Magni's home, I'm going to have him put up a PowerPoint. This will be a couple of weeks. I do an intuitive tarot class, but I want to get into like the nitty gritty of the tarot cards. And I'm going to teach you how to truly read tarot. A little bit of homework before that. In order to be a good reader, you have to be a good storyteller. I didn't say a good liar, because you're not going to lie to people. But you have to understand the concepts of being a good storyteller. So practice with children's books. Children's books are phenomenal. Go grab those little, well, they used to be 29 cents. Now they probably cost $29. But remember, you used to be able to go to the store and get those little 29-cent or 30-cent books. The little kids' books, like 5 pages long. Yeah, those are the ones if you could get a couple of those and read those, just get in the habit of telling a little story. Because that's what tarot is. You're looking at the cards and you're sensing the cards, and then you're sensing the person that you're reading into those cards, and the cards are telling you a story. And the pictures on the cards, and the cards all do have some meanings, but those meanings change depending upon what's next to them and what the sitter's telling you about those cards. So the cards have various meanings depending upon what's around them. And the suits have different meanings or different angles. And so we're going to talk a lot about that on the next podcast. So those of you that want to learn a little bit about tarot, I'm going to talk a lot about that on the next podcast. So that's what I'm going to talk about on Wednesday night. And I have a book that I've created called Tarot, the Whole Story. And I've got a PowerPoint that goes with it. Now, if Magni's here and he can hook up my PowerPoint, then I will show you the PowerPoint. Now, that course takes about 13 hours to do. I am not doing 13 episodes on tarot. I'll have all y'all cutting your wrist. But I will cover the strong basics, and I will teach you. So bring your cards and bring your pencil and paper, because I'm going to give you the basics. And then we will talk about the main cards and the suits, and we'll talk a little bit about the symbology, the numerology, and the colors and those things in the astrology in the cards. So we'll talk a little bit about all that on Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit about that on Wednesday, and that you should have a system of cards in your mind that will tell everything there is about life. Every situation in life, you should be able to pull cards and show me. I should be able to call out a situation for you, and you should be able to pull out 3 cards that would spell out that situation. And so when I teach tarot, when I teach high advanced tarot, that's what I'll do. I'll pull random situations out, like crazy situations, like red-haired dude trips in a puddle and busts his head open. Show me that in the cards. And people are like, what? I'm saying, yeah, you can pull it out of there. Show it to me. You're like, where does that say that? You can find that in there. You can. So again, and I'm also going to be, and I'm doing this because after the talk online, I am going to be opening up. I've had like 3 people ask me to teach a tarot class. So I am going to teach a tarot class that's going to be at my home. So this free thing is going to be like a precursor that I'm going to do the at home one, that I am going to really teach you guys. Like when you leave that class, you should be able to go professionally and read when I finish with you, because you're going to learn a lot. Okay. So anyway, that's my Sunday night rant, you guys. I don't know if I'm going to be on here Monday. Let me see if I got any clients tomorrow night. If I don't have clients tomorrow, I know I got clients sometime this week because we had snow last week, so I had to move some people around. Let's see what I've got here. Calendar. Actually, I will be on almost every night this week, so that's good. I will be on almost every night this week. And because Magni's been in Norway and I wasn't sure if I was going, so I haven't booked anybody. I don't have anybody until February the 4th, so I'm pretty free this week. So if anybody wants a reading this week, you can call me because I wasn't sure if I was going to be in town or not, so I didn't book anybody. So I will be free this week every night, but Wednesday night I should be free. And I got to tell y'all, my ghost in my house has been very active since the snow. Have y'all been experiencing anything since the snow? Like, there have been footsteps in my house today. There have been lots of knocks today. I just had one, but I've been having like a lot of knocks today. Like, the activity in my house has increased since the snow, which I found kind of, like, when Trini's here, when we're here together, like the two of us, or even when she's by herself, there's all kinds of stuff that happens in my house. But usually when I'm by myself, every now and then I'll have stuff. Or when Magnie's here, maybe I just don't notice it when Magnie's here. But if another medium's here in me, I'll experience it. And sometimes when I'm by myself, but seldom when like Magnie's here with me, I don't experience a lot of stuff. But man, this week since the snow, like lots of raps, lots of taps, lots of walking in the house. Like I hear people like walking around like my hallway and in my den. I hear people walk like on the wooden on my not wooden. It's on the parquet floor. You know, actually, I actually got up here to go look. Like, who is that? Like, what is? Because like normally I'll just knock or things will move a little bit. But now I'm actually walking and something like, where's that coming from? So I do have we do have some surprises coming up for you guys in the near future. I am getting with Trenny. She is going to be coming down. I got to give her some dates that I'm free for her to come down. But I've just booked some shows in Florida and booked some shows in Florida, in Sarasota and West Palm Beach, and still got the show in Tulsa. I am not going to Denver the weekend of the 6th, but I'm doing a private show in Chalmette on the Friday of that weekend of Super Bowl. I am doing a show in Chalmette, private show. So that's what I have going on. But I am free this week, so feel free to text. It's best right now to text the 504-708-8353. I'll get it that way because I don't take the phone to work with me, but I will see the text when I get home and I can get that back. Oh, and thank you for the prayers for Stacy. My girl Friday, she has recovered very well. She'll be getting the phone back this week, probably by the end of this week. She'll be getting the phone back because she's done really well with her surgeries. She's already got some of the drains removed. She's still recovering, but she's able to pick up a phone now because I talked to her yesterday. I'm surprised she's not on tonight. Well, she may be sleeping because I know she's still in and out of a little bit of pain, but Stacy is doing wonderful. The prayers have all worked for her, and she's doing good. She's actually sounded better yesterday than she has in a long time when I talked to her on the phone. She sounded really good. And I think that's because she got some really good positive energy from her family. Because, she was around Christmas time. She always gets depressed around that time, but she had a lot of family support this time, and I think that really helped her heal really quick. It's like she got she had 6 drains post surgery, and 3 of them came out really quick. Like really quick. She's healing really fast, and so I think a lot of it is the positivity around her. And she's happy. Like right now, she's really, really happy. So I'm very excited about that, and I want to thank everybody for their prayers for Stacy, and keep it up because she's doing really good. And like I said, she's getting the phone back at the end of the week because I can't keep up with it, and I just can't keep up with it. So anyway, want to thank you guys for listening. And again, on Wednesday, I'm going to teach tarot on my podcast. I'm going to talk about tarot and teach some tarot. Bring your cards, bring pencil, bring paper, and we will talk about that. And I will see you guys probably tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, same time, same place. Thank you for joining me for the Sunday